Over at Best Car Web, the best source for upcoming Japanese vehicles, the 6th generation Supra is going to be battery electric according to them. But that's not all we're going to talk about today. We're also going to mention Toyota's EV only path is not the solution. And then they have science and rationale to back it up, mainly because of a lithium. It's not going to ramp up quick enough. We'll dive into that in a little bit as well. And we'll also talk about how BZ4X and Subaru Solterra are sitting on lots. Yes, their first ever battery electric vehicles available in the United States are not selling. So let's get back to the elephant in the room. The Supra reborn as an EV. It's a little bit sacrilege, but what if it's actually great? What if they have solid state batteries? Let's get into it. Now, this render is not based off of anything that I'm aware of. This is a prediction, but they've been told from eyewitnesses, well, obviously that would be inside Toyota, that the Supra is designed like a midship sports. So maybe kind of bridging the gap between an MR2 sort of silhouette and a front rear silhouette like the Supra. They're saying it's going to be rear wheel drive, have 450 to 500 horsepower, and be a two-seater just like the current Supra. The current Supra will be getting a GRMN specification. That's their highest form of performance from the factory. It's track ready essentially, and it will be getting up to 550 horsepower within this year, they're saying. So by the end of 2023, we could be seeing the GRMN Supra. If you didn't see my manual Supra review, go ahead and check that out. That car is fantastic. And they're saying the GR Supra is electric. It is not a hybrid, but an EV, and begins a new history for Toyota. They don't know what kind of platform it will be on. They're assuming that the new Supra electrified will be built on the ETNJ platform. And I don't know how I feel about that, because the ETNJ platform is it's essentially derived from the K platform, from my understanding, which is a front engine, front wheel drive sort of setup. Could Toyota do some wizardry and modify the ETNJ to fit in a high performance Supra? I guess, but it just doesn't make sense to me. This vehicle would probably have to be built on their all new skateboard platform, but we're hearing that might not be out until 2027 or 2028. So the Supra's platform and its underpinnings, if it is to come out in 2025, seems to be a complete mystery. They remind us that Toyota is ramping up their EVs, $5.6 billion to start production of EVs and new batteries from 2024 to 2026. They're hoping to boost output in Japan and the United States to 40 gigawatt hours, but they have plans to scale all the way up to 200 gigawatt hours by about 2030, from my understanding. The question is will it have a manual transmission, which doesn't make any sense, right? But we know Lexus is working on a manual transmission. They showed it in a battery electric vehicle, and no one knows exactly how it would work, but it would allow you to drive it as a manual if you want more engagement. And of course, you just put it in fully automatic mode. It's kind of like simulating a clutch and a pedal and a shifter, but it's all there. You still have all that tactile feedback. And if anyone could do it, I guess Toyota could engineer it. But at the same time, is that what people would want? Maybe. And if the Supra brought it, no one else would have a manual transmission in an electric vehicle. They're also saying it will be steer by wire. That is going to happen for sure. The Lexus RZ coming out this spring is going to have steering by wire as well, with a steering yoke as an option. So that could be coming to the Supra as well. And there are benefits of steering by wire. Yes, it's not quite as direct feeling in theory, but you can have a much greater turning ratio with it compared to a normal steering wheel. We also have patented images on the LFA2, or what I believe is going to be called the LFR, because that has been trademarked. So let's get into this. The LFR is scheduled to appear following the EV Supra and is scheduled to be released as a gasoline turbo plug-in hybrid first. We're hearing a twin turbo V8. I don't know if they mentioned in this because I haven't read that far ahead, but they're saying an EV variant will be added. It says added, not replaced. So the twin turbo V8 plug-in hybrid will begin and continue alongside of the EV. And the plug-in hybrid will be four-wheel drive, of course, rear-wheel drive biased, and it is likely to debut at the end of 2025 at the earliest and 2026 at the latest. So pretty much the same time window as what they're saying for the EV Supra. But let's switch gears on over to Toyota and them pumping the brakes on the excitement around electric vehicles. Essentially what it comes down to is, how do we reduce carbon? Carbon is the framed enemy here, CO2, the emission of CO2 into the atmosphere. If that is the enemy, how do we reduce it in the most effective, cost-effective, and impactful way possible? So they're saying, okay, we have full lineup of just gas cars. Here's 100 gas cars, and they produce 250 grams per kilometer of carbon dioxide. Now, if you have one battery electric vehicle with a 100 kilowatt hour battery, it barely makes a dent in the output of carbon. But if you have 90 hybrids using the same amount of batteries that you would in a 100 kilowatt hour battery electric vehicle, your fleet grams per kilometer goes down to 205 per 100 vehicles. So Toyota is bringing this sort of rationale to light mainly because of their fear that lithium is not going to be able to keep up with the demand. And the shortage will make it very difficult to supply all of the EVs in the industry. So Toyota concludes that to make the biggest dent in carbon emissions, it makes more sense to spread the limited supply of lithium among as many cars as possible to electrify as many cars as possible. He said society is overestimating the fact of a technology in the short run and underestimating the effect in the long run. Lithium shortages and a lack of recharging infrastructure will create an inevitable bottleneck that will kneecap big volume rollouts of pure electric vehicles over the next decade. There is a crunch that is going to come, said Pratt. Time is on our side. The shortages, not only of battery and minerals, but of charging infrastructure will make it abundantly clear that one size does not fit all, and the best answer is actually a mix of different vehicle types. This is due to several forecasts that show battery demand for lithium continuing to outstrip supply of lithium as far into the future as 2040. And one scenario shows supply covering as little as 1/3 of total demand in that time frame. So we have battery factories opening up, which only takes about 2 to 3 years. But in order to bring a lithium mine up into production, it can take up to 16 years to get it pumping out lithium. The most important factor, but they also mention other materials. We know about cobalt, nickel, manganese, etc., that are going to be in short supply and high demand. And he brings his own experience into this. He says his family has a Tesla Model X and it has a 300-mile range, but his wife drives it less than 30 miles a day, meaning 90% of the battery is dead weight. He says it's an incredible waste of materials, and I agree. That's why I think plug-in hybrids probably are the best solution for most people, even though it's not the most emotionally driven solution because they're not super fast or sexy. Well, watch my Volvo plug-in hybrid reviews. They're fast as hell. We know that the plug-in hybrids from Toyota are fast for a Toyota, so they can have really high performance while not carrying a ton of dead weight around. What do you think? Do you think the future is more hybrid as we run into limitations in battery supplies, especially lithium? Let's go into the last discussion today. This was brought to my attention by one of my followers on the channel, just in the comment section of a video. And he said he has friends that are in the Toyota dealerships saying that BZ4Xs are sitting around collecting dust. BZ4X, their first battery electric vehicle, is not very impressive. I like the interior of it. A lot of people don't. I like how it drives. It felt very balanced and refined when I drove it in Encinitas. It's pretty ugly on the outside, but that's obviously subjective. But with Tesla price cuts, also Ford dropping prices up to $6,000 on the Mustang Mach-E, Ford's not making any money on. Actually, they're losing money on the Mustang Mach-E to keep up with Tesla. And Volkswagen saying we're not going to match Tesla price cuts because they're just too expensive. So let's go back to the BZ4Xs. Sitting on lots. So this is 500 miles from me. There are only 5 BZ4Xs on the lots. One of them is a Subaru Solterra canned image, but it says BZ4X. One is priced at $70,000. Are you kidding me? In Daytona? That makes no sense. But if I extend the reach for the whole United States here, we have price drops happening on the BZ4X as they collect dust. $1,000 price drop is pretty common here. Over almost $1,200 here on this BZ4X, which it looks best in black or dark gray because of the two-tone paint. It just drives me nuts around the wheel arches and around the front grille and whatnot. But yes, they are sitting on the lot. So how many are in the United States just sitting around? 451. But what about Subaru? Their clone of the BZ4X, the Solterra. Heck, 500 miles from me, there are 23. There are only like 4 BZ4Xs. So Subaru Solterra. So here's the thing. If you look at the average prices here, it looks like most of them are the limited or the higher trim models, which are about $50,000. And that is not Subaru pricing territory. If we look at the average price of a Subaru, it's about $33,000. So you're asking your Subaru buyers to cough up an extra 20 grand for an electric vehicle. That's not the best electric vehicle in the segment by any means. You're going to have these vehicles sitting on lots, and it's tough to see, especially since these vehicles come from Japan, don't get the EV tax credit, which makes them less like tempting in any sort of situation over what the Koreans have to offer, what Tesla has to offer. And I wasn't impressed with the ID4 when I drove it, so maybe they've ironed some things out on it, but I'd rather have a BZ4X or Solterra over that vehicle. But I've heard good things about the Mustang Mach-E, etc. So I'm going to end it there, guys. What are your thoughts about an EV Supra, Toyota pumping the brakes, or at least preparing for a lithium shortage? So they're going to be focusing on a multi-pronged approach. And are you surprised BZ4Xs and Solterras are collecting dust on lots? I'll catch you in the next one. Make sure you subscribed, and if you liked today's video, hit the like button. I'll catch you in the next one.